All right, we now welcome on a very special guest, probably the most ripped off Jewish comedian out there today. I would say he's also the best from stand up comic. He's originally from Chicago, now unfortunately lives in the Heights. My heart goes out. Started performing comedy while attending YU. He won the school's annual stand up comedy contest in 2009, the co creator and head writer for The Quipster. Since then, Ellie's been performing at comedy clubs in New York City, college campuses along the East Coast, synagogue dinners, Passover programs, and Jewish events where there's food. And now, coming to you live in your living room, wherever that is. I think he also made some people laugh once at a B&H event. It is, of course, the well-known stand-up comic Eli Lebowitz. Ellie, welcome to the back of the show.
Thanks for having me. Whenever, by the way, when people read the bio on my website, it makes me realize how terrible it is. But also, it's like now these days it's just super sad. Where it's like, oh, he performs at shul events, Pesach programs, other things that also don't happen anymore. Uh, and also, I don't live in the Heights anymore. I live in Riverdale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I still remember the loudness of the Heights, so I can relate to everyone else in New York City with the fireworks. So, yeah.
Well, congrats on the move.
Thank you.
When did that happen?
But almost 2 years ago. So we were in a one-bedroom apartment, and we needed our space.
Oh, so that's great.
So when Shlomo cuts that intro, we'll understand why.
It's like you're too nice. Not anymore.
Yeah, it's nice to be the editor. You could cut anything that makes you look bad.
Hey, I really knew that. I just wanted you to. I just wanted to make you feel even better about moving out of the Heights.
Yeah, I appreciate. Well, listen, it's I appreciate it. It's funny because podcasts always say like, "Oh, we're gonna cut that," and they never cut it.
No, we legit never cut it. We never cut it. Unless someone makes a joke that's like too personal, then we have to cut it.
Right.
Not pointing any fingers or anything, but
yeah, exactly.
Not.
All right, so let's go right into it. Actually, I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask first, but the first question I wanted to ask is how has everything changed due to COVID? I mean, this isn't your primary occupation, but you do this pretty often, and I would imagine that COVID has forced you to, pivot a little bit in terms of how you perform comedy.
Well, I think it's one of those things. I do have a day job, but I perform, I know, about 50 times a year or so. And it's one of those things where I was like, oh, should I do comedy full time? And now I'm like, can I do comedy ever again? Like, it's a very different situation. But I don't know. I mean, that's also just Zoom is I've done a bunch of shows over Zoom, which is very, very difficult. It's like the hardest thing to do over Zoom because like a rabbi get like, the other night I said a joke where I said, comedians over Zoom are just like, oh, there's no feedback or you don't get any response. You just see people staring blankly, and shul rabbis are like, now you know how we feel. So, but it's very, very tricky. I mean, thank God I'm doing a lot of shows over Zoom, but it's a kind of a shell of a former. Like it'd be great to do a live show again. So I don't have to hear everyone before the show. Like, I can't hear him. Can you make sure he's unmuted? And yeah,
they're saying that as you see halfway up their nostrils.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and also I can only see about 9 people per screen. So if I get 2 good laughers, and then I have to, but like 7 bad ones, I have to like go to the next screen and be like, oh, there's 2 good ones. I got to take like a fantasy draft of like good people and put them on one screen. But alas, this is the technology that we're in.
I feel like coronavirus has kind of made everything more extreme. I'm sure as a comedian, there are probably times where you have to question, is this a good idea? Is this a joke? Is this a line I can cross? Has this made it made it worse? Meaning are the COVID jokes harder to figure out?
So it's interesting because I have probably about like 10 minutes of material about quarantine and COVID and stuff like that. And because of the nature of Zoom, it's almost like I'm just like throwing stuff out there and like, all right, if you got offended, I have no idea because I can't hear most of the audience. So I'm like, but like it is tricky when you're performing and you see this person left, and you just have to assume they were offended, even if your joke was about like Yalaviavo or something like that. But I try to make jokes about everything related to the situation except the fact that people are getting sick and dying, which again, which is very, I know, not like the funniest of lines right there, but basically the idea that, you know, basically that I just make jokes about the quarantine or about like I said I did a show over Zoom and there was like a teacher making PPE masks during the show, and I said I've never felt less essential in my entire life, and so I don't know. There's a lot of good material from. The good thing is that everybody's on the same page. Everybody's in like the same situation right now. So Jimmy Fallon is doing his show from home. So we're all in the same boat. So there's a
Right.
lot of good. If I was worried my stuff isn't relatable, I can be like, all right, here's my experience. This is probably very similar to yours. So I don't know.
Right. No, that's interesting. I realize we jumped the gun a little bit, so I guess let's back up. How did you get into stand-up comedy?
So I went to YU. I don't know if you guys know what YU is. YU is like Landers but more expensive. But basically, I went to YU in 2008. Yeah, and when I was there, a couple guys, Tony Gutterman and Donnie Collette, who used to be like really big Hask guys, they like ran this program called like the Chesed Club or something, and they basically created an amateur new talent contest where they said, hey, like an open mic night type of thing. So they basically created that my first year of YU, and I did that, and I was terrible the first time. But then the second year I did it, I won it. That's why it's on my bio on my website, because I don't have real credits. And then the year after that, I like came in second when I should have won anyway. But that was really how I started doing it, because I was just like, if most people, their biggest roadblock to doing stand up is probably being able to tell a joke and being scared of speaking in public. So speaking in public, okay, that's something that you can kind of get over. And the litmus test, I think, is if you're the person who makes people laugh at the Shabbos meal, and I think you can probably do it. So hopefully if you guys have a podcast, you guys are those people also. um, or not.
Yeah.
And no, yeah, but that's how I started doing it. And then I just started realizing that like I have such a niche of Jewish material, because there is a need for Orthodox material, and
Right.
it's usually the litmus test of Jewish comedians are often like very like pandering, bagel, my grandmother's kosher type of material, or it's like very lame fifth grade Rebbe, Laffy Taffy,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I think there is a space for people that have clean material that's funny but not lame. That's like, hey, I'm totally thinking of that during that. Like you have shul thoughts or Shemona Esrei thoughts. It's like, yeah, that's my act. My, I think that sometimes I think that I say that if I come up with a lot of my jokes during Shemona Esrei, God's gonna get all Mida Keneged Mida on me. And next time I'm on stage, He's gonna make me think of Shemona Esrei. So. Yeah. So at Friday night is the best time. I'll literally go to my wife and be like, "Hey, let me tell me about this. Remind me about this joke." And then after Shabbos, she'll say, "I was supposed to remind you of something." Yeah, no, it's God's ultimate. It's God. People don't think God has a sense of humor, but no, it's God's ultimate trick on you is being like, "I'm going to give you this great joke, but you cannot remember it once Abdullah." My album is going to be called "Remind Me After Shabbos." So one day when I make an album, thank you. But yeah, Shemona Esrei and Friday nights definitely the biggest inspirations for just random
How
humor.
is your, I guess, your comedy evolved since you first started? I would imagine when you first started, like everybody's first foray into anything, it wasn't the best, and now obviously you're more polished. How has that evolved, both from a content perspective and even a delivery perspective?
Well, delivery you pick up like more technique of learn to pause, and I think Seinfeld says it's like a conversation. You speak, then you wait for them to laugh, and then you kind of do like a give and take. So you're not like, there's a thing called like stepping over laughs. So people, if people are laughing, you don't want to go to the next joke. That's why actual Zoom is actually even harder, because you have to like wait an extra 8 seconds, especially if people have like a 56K modem, then you really are, who knows how long you're waiting. So you have to like really, the timing is something that you kind of work on. I've developed, I used to have a really big problem like grouping things together. Like if like, I don't know how Mitch Hedberg would come up with jokes, like, or remember his material, because they're all just like random like one-liners with no connection. So for myself, I like try to group things together. I'm like, okay, I have jokes about being married, have jokes about davening, have jokes about this, and like being able to make it flow better is something that you just, if you do something enough times, you just get better at it. And being able to like really flesh out like material, make this a bit. Like, I have a bit that I end with usually about the song Ninth Man by Journeys and Avi Rottenberg. I'm not going to do it now, but well, it's not. I just feel like, I could do it, but then people are like, why would I ever pay to see him ever? No, when we stop recording, I can do it. But
Elliot, how about this? Say the joke, but stop at the punchline.
There isn't a punchline. It's a whole analysis of. I'll give you my Deaf Man in the Stiebel version, which is a thing I'm like thinking of. Deaf Man in the Stiebel is just like, we all know the song, and at the end he says, suddenly the chazan comes rushing through the door. He's wearing his white chazan that he's never worn before. He pauses for a moment in his father's empty chair, and quietly he wipes away a tear. And he runs up to the bima, for there's no time left to wait, and half the shul can hear the rabbi ask, how come so late? And just getting ready for Yom Kippur. How's the rest go? He'll always say, and now I'm going up to pray. And then he ends, and then he says, and suddenly when he finished davening, the rabbi asked to tell, what was it he was thinking of that made him sing so well? Well, you knew my dad was deaf. He said, last night he passed away. The first time that my fathers heard me pray. Spoiler. For some reason. Is this thank you. I'm a Levi. I forgot to tell you. Is this not the worst rabbi in the history of rabbis? 100%. Who's just like, hey, I don't know if this is not original thought, but I think like I just feel like it's like, first of all, he's just like, hey, in front of everybody on Yom Kippur, hey, why are you so late? And also at the end, hey, normally you stink. Why did you do well this time? Like, why is he like getting hired as the chazan? Just more. I'm right. I kind of just pick apart, but like it should be called tone deaf rabbi in the Stiebel. Like, come on, let's. But by the way, I did the joke about Ninth Man, which I'll tease you again on last summer in the Catskills. You guys remember the Catskills? Yeah. And I did the joke, and at the end, somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm Country Yossi. Thanks for not destroying one of my songs."
Oh man,
it was a great moment. Yeah, and I also don't know Jewish music very well either. So like I only know Ninth Man because that they like played 3 songs in camp to wake us up, like blasting at 3 a.m. forever making me love Jewish music, and Ninth Man was one of them.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
Thank you.
Is there a specific audience that you like to perform in front of?
Jews, Orthodox Jews. Well, you know what it's just there's a certain. I used to say that like I have a certain demographic, people that are like frum enough to get my jokes, but like laid back enough to laugh at them. So like 12 people, like your entire audience. Pretty much.
I wish we can get up to 12 people.
Well, we have 4 here, so that's good. But no, I mean, it's so funny because I often run into situations where I think I know I would be perfect for an audience, but you guys know how you're Passaic, you know how it is, like that sometimes by the way, I did it with Young Israel of Clifton Passaic, and it was one of the best shows. It was great. I did it last March, and Rabbi Glass was great, but like in terms of like there's a certain just demographic of people that would be great for my material, but they pretend they're too frum for comedy, and it's just annoying because everybody is like everybody that is this demographic I think can laugh at this material, but have to put on this like frum face, and like I say that like I'll contact schools a lot of times and ask if they want to have a comedy night, and they'll always tell me horrible comedy nights that went wrong in the past, and they'll be like, well, we had a comedian in 1985 and he swore the whole time, and it was the worst kiss above event we ever had, and like you know and but seriously, like a lot of times they end up going with like a comedian that they Google Jewish comedian. They get somebody who's just like doesn't know the crowd, and I'm just like, guys, I have a sphere beard in my picture. Like I went to Charlemagne. Like I know
Right.
what is okay for an Orthodox audience. Um, but I'm also trying to like kind of step outside the Orthodox world and like veer toward conservative and reform and other denominations if I can. I just don't know what things made it to the other denominations. Like I'll be very surprised. Like I said something about like Rashi or something, and like one of my aunts who isn't Orthodox, she was like, "Oh, I know Rashi," and I was like, "I don't understand. You know Rashi, but you don't know Shavuos. Like I don't really get where like benching. The word benching made it, but like other things did not. But Sukkot and Shavuos did not make it."
I have one of the greatest stories of all time when it comes to that. A friend of mine, his grandfather is not religious, and he did a favor for his grandfather one time. I think he fixed his tire or something, and he goes back into the apartment and he goes to clean up his hands, and his grandfather says, "Ellie, thank you so much. You're a ganef and a mamzer." Those are the only two things. Those are the only two things that made it down.
That's great. That's like a legacy. But by the way, in terms of, I was listening to some of the old episodes, the Jewish names that are not really popular. I used to go through the parsha and like think of different jokes based on each parsha if I could. And when at the end of Bereshis, when Yaakov's giving the brachos to his sons, I thought of for Zvulun. I always thought like Yehuda gets this great bracha. Zvulun walks in the door after him, hoping he's going to get a great bracha. He's going to be like, Yaakov says to him, Zvulun, I want you to know you're going to be really rich and have a lot of success and wealth. And Zvulun's like, yes, I'm going to get so many boats. I'm going to name them all Zvulun. The name Zvulun's really going to catch on among the Jewish people. And it did not. And then he says, but one thing, you will have to support all the call guys from Yisachar. And he's like, wow. But like even that like that's a joke that I would hesitate to say in certain crowds because people are like, what are you saying about Kolo? And I was like, I am saying,
well, would you rather
good, okay?
Would you rather perform in front of a very serious modern crowd or a very serious yeshivish crowd?
Serious modern crowd by a landslide. Serious yeshivish crowd, they don't even, again, because they've also just gotten to this point where like certain things are just not okay to say, and like there's a certain level like and you can tell because like for some reason comedy just isn't okay for a lot of people. I don't know if it's a like funnest thing, or if it's just like the world. I kind of used to say this joke where I say like like Jewish people are kind of in the middle where you have I'm going to alienate your 12 people audience, but you're or modern Orthodox people on one side like what 10%.
No.
Well, it's only 40% capacity until phase 3, right? But you have modern Orthodox people who we know are both our feet are in both worlds, and then you have Hasidim who like never really have like men and women together, and then you have Yeshivish people who are like, I don't want to be like them, I don't want to be like them, I'm just going to be in the middle and unhappy. And I don't know if that's a very like real, but like I just feel like there are times when I'll say even a premise, and like again, I know where the line is. I'm not going to swear. I'm not going to say anything, but I'll say something like I said the word kiss once, and people are like, no. Like I'm just like what? Like I mean, again, I haven't. Everybody has their own sensitivity of what's okay, and you just also again, it's also there's a certain level of like making a joke about Zvulun or Yisachar and Zvulun, like. Certain crowds are not going to be able to handle that kind of joke because they'll just be like, you can't make a joke about something in the Torah. And then God. Yeah, well, no, I'm saying like I have a joke where like I said about the measures about Nachshon Ben Aminadav where he jumps into the Yam Suf or he walks in whatever slowly, and then like but there's like an awkward 45 seconds where like the water doesn't but it goes up to his head, and I bet everyone's like, "That's water," and like his mom yells out, "He's not a good swimmer." Like I told that joke once. And somebody came up to me afterwards and like, you can't make a joke about Nacho and Ben Minadov. And I was like, it's not even in the text. Like, it's not, it's a measure. Like, so I don't know. Just
Right.
sometimes, so a serious modern crowd, because I think, just in my experience, like certain crowds are just so a little uptight about things, and it's very hard to.
I think the rule of thumb is if it's a pre-Winnie story, you're not allowed to make a joke about it.
Well, Ellie, you have actually some good material on that. I know, like
Which one?
some of like the like Yehuda and Tamar, like questions
Oh,
that you know how to ask.
Right. Well, right. So that's also the thing. Like there's certain, like you said, right, there are certain stories that are like, that we kind of like, the rabbis like bulldoze, like the entire Parshas Vayeshev. You're just like, you're a kid, you're like, oh, it's like a movie that's been edited for TBS. And then when you're an adult, it's like, what is Game of Thrones? Like, right. So one of the things I say is, first of all, I say like, I guess we're getting to that part soon. We're getting to Pinchas. I said, how do rabbis teach little kids, like fourth graders or third graders, about Pinchas without like the whole sexual aspect of it? You're just like, oh, Pinchas was this great guy. Oh, what did he do? Oh, he killed this guy Zimri. Why? What was Zimri doing? It's not important. Let's go play kickball. I'm a camp counselor. This is way above my pay grade. Or it's like, again, the same thing. Like, oh, how did Yehuda's two sons die? For asking too many questions. Okay. How did Joseph end up in jail? He just did. All right. Just stop asking. Yeah. So and again, I think that's a perfectly okay joke to make, but like I'd be worried to make that joke because I'm alluding
Right.
to sexual
Right.
references.
Well, Ellie, I've always wondered, what's the best heckle that you've ever gotten?
Oh man, when I said the kiss story, I said something like I was doing a Sheva Brachos, which I guess I also didn't know was a thing that people have comedians at. That's more like a yeshivish thing, also, right? That people have like entertainment at Sheva Brachos.
It's like a Heimish thing. They do Bad Chanim.
Right. So I've over the course of the last several years, I do about 5 or 6 a year where I do Sheva Brachos for more like yeshivish oriented crowds, and I can already tell right when I'm like, is it going to be, if it's mixed seating, I'm good. If it's not mixed seating and you have women on in another building, I'm like, oh, this is going to be terrible. Like, and so I did one where they said we want the material to be Lakewood style. So I was like, oh boy, so not funny. Like what does that mean? And so, they said this whole, I was saying the story. I basically, the joke about the kissing thing was I would say that Jewish proposal or Orthodox proposals are so much different than, non-Jewish proposals. Non-Jewish proposals are like, will you marry me? Yes, great. And then they kiss or whatever. That's what I said. And then Jewish proposals are like, will you marry me? Yes. Awesome. I'm going to make some phone calls. I'll see you in 3 to 4 months, depending on how firm we are. And so I didn't even get to that part because when I say the thing about non-Jews, I usually say make out or whatever, and then I said kiss for this. And then when I said kiss, somebody yelled out, next topic, as if like I was like a sheer, like a Shavuos Marmakalist list that was like, okay, now we're going to go to source 3. And I didn't know. And then the guy came up to me afterwards. He was like, well, my daughters are teenagers. And I was like, oh, you should know. They know what kissing is. And, but that was probably the weirdest. Yeah, probably the weirdest and worst heckle because I was just so unprepared. And it just throws you off. And you're just like, all right. So you guys want to hear about Yehuda tomorrow?
What's harder, a chabura or stand-up comedy?
Well, the problem is also like I have jokes about that when I have you have that's what Shlomo, your question at the beginning about like how do you get it, see improvement and all that. It's like over time you're like, okay, this didn't go well, but I have this joke in my pocket that I know works great. Like this is usually a never fail line where I say like, whenever I go to a comedy club, I have a tough time relating to comedians' premises because usually very dirty. They'll get up on stage and be like, how when you're a strip club in Vegas doing cocaine, and I'll be like, no. Or not even dirty stuff, just stuff I have a trouble relating to. They'll be like, out here at McDonald's. I'm like, let me stop you right there. Like, I need a comedian who has something I can relate to. I need a comedian who'll get up on stage and be like, how when you're peeing and you sneeze and your yarmulke falls in the toilet? I'd be like, usually that joke it gets great laughs because everyone's like, oh my God, that happens to me all the time. But if that joke does not get a laugh, it's going to be a rough night. I'm going to try to do that the next Sima shots and see what happens, but I think it's going to be a very tough. And then sometimes I say at the end, I'll be like, I say all the women turn to the men are like, does that really happen to you? And all the men have to lie and say, no, it does not. But that's why some people are like that. So,
yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. I had like 2 more questions, guys. I'm not sure if you guys also. Is there a From comedy special out there? And if yes, who is it? Who has that? And if not, when are you going to put out a special?
Well, remind me after Shabbos comes out. No, I don't. You know what? I've been really trying. I've been really wanting to release an album, some kind of record an album, and release it, just because I want to. It forces you to write new material, kind of like anyone who does like a Tonight Show bit or something on Netflix. They kind of just like, hey, that's done. Let me keep writing, new stuff. There are other from comedians. There's Elon Gold, Avi Lieberman, Ashley Blaker.
Right.
Ashley Blaker I think released something for free over YouTube. I'm going to take away business from myself and plug him, but no. There are people that have from some for material, but it's very few and far between because I think people have trouble navigating the line of like what's appropriate and what's okay for people to handle. In addition to, I like my definition of modern orthodoxy is very different than some people's different definition of modern orthodoxy. And I realize that I have a certain level of Jewish education that if I have a joke about Rabbi Meir Balanese or Sota, I'm pretty safe that no one else has that material. So yeah, that's the Sota joke, by the way, because you want to hear it, is that I said I bet it was horrifying watching a Sota explode, but I wonder if there was some guy in the back who was like a huge Mortal Kombat fan who was like fatality, and but then I also I say the Sota for those of you that don't remember because Tanakh. Sota is basically a woman who's accused by her husband of committing adultery, but we don't know if she did it. So what she does is she drinks this special water, and if she did commit adultery, then she explodes. You know how you do. And if she did not commit adultery, well, then they have the most awkward car ride home in the history of the universe. Like, we want to talk about what happened. I think you should sleep in the sofa tonight. Yeah, so again, that's another joke that a certain crowd is not going to be able to because they don't get the Mortal Kombat reference, but also the level of you're talking about adultery, which is we don't say they do we don't say things, you know what I mean? So yeah, what was the question?
I did have a question, which is: has there ever been a time where you included a joke which you didn't think was very good, whether on Twitter or in your stand-up, that you thought it wasn't good, but it got a great reaction?
I try. It's interesting because Facebook and Twitter are actually very useful tools because there aren't any from open mics really where I can just be like, hey guys, I wrote this great Robbie Mayer joke. Do you want to hear it? There isn't. Facebook and Twitter has to be that, and has to be okay, this is the best I'm going to do right now in terms of the audience. There are jokes that do surprisingly well that I'm like, oh, that's surprising that got such a good laugh. But I think I'm not going to really post many jokes that I'm not really going to believe in, because I don't know. I try to. I don't know. Brand loyalty sounds really really haughty, but like I want to not brand loyalty. I want to just like maintain my level of. I don't know. I want to do material that I think is good. So I don't think there's ever really going to be much times where I'm going to be like, okay, I didn't like this joke, but like it got really well. It went really well. I mean, there are jokes I'm sick of, which is why I need an album so that I can write new stuff. But I don't know.
Uh-huh. And maybe this is my last question, but and you can tell me if it's a little personal, but is there actual money to be made in film comedy these days?
I think so. I mean, pre-corona, maybe. It's a different story. I don't know. I'm saying like there are people that do a lot of that do like your Elon Golds, your Modis, your Avi Liebermans. They do a lot of these events, and Ashley Blakers. They do a lot of these events. Your galas and stuff like that, and they pay pretty well generally, but again, I've started saying that people, Jewish organizations always try to like, haggle with you and say like, especially now I said they got to be careful with the wording. They'd be like, you should do this for us. It'd be really good exposure. And I'm like, oh, that's not a good choice of words to use right now. No. You'll go viral. It'll spread everywhere. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I thank God. I mean, I don't know. It's too inconsistent to do full time. I think unless I get to the next level of let's say celebrity. So this podcast will really launch that. But like the problem is because it's too tenuous of being able to. I'll be in great talks with a shul or a school for a dinner or something like that, and they'll be like, "Yeah, great," and we think like it's ready to go. And then at the last second, they'll be like, "Oh, actually, we got a monkey that could say Kiddush instead," or or they'll be like, "We went," and like you think it's like great because the problem is with comedy, it's the only thing where it gets like shot down because like I don't know what happens in these shul board meetings, but I bet like just like one person is like, "Oh, I hate comedy," and they're like, "Well, I guess that idea is gone." Like it doesn't matter. Again, it's you had one comedian once that didn't go well. That's it. I'm sorry forever. Like you're not gonna have Mordechai Ben David and be like, I'm sorry, we can't have Avram Fried. Like it's just very like you just don't. I don't get it, and so it's so tricky to do it for just like from audiences where like the audience isn't that big. Also, I mean, again, that's why if I branch out to Jewish in general and I kind of globalize some of my material, which I think I'm learning to do a little bit more. I think confidently I can do probably 30 minutes for a non-Orthodox audience, depending on if they have kids or if they're married and stuff like that. And then for an Orthodox audience, probably about 75 minutes. But I,
Right.
yeah, but I don't know. I mean, also the world's going to be very different. I'm right now I'm stuck with Zoom because I don't know in the next time people are going to be okay with having a live show.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying you didn't do much for Jewish stereotypes with that question. On a Jewish podcast that's supposed to be pretty funny, asking a Jewish comedian whether he makes money doing the comedy. It's just
I think Jackie Mason's first 10 minutes are how much do you think he's making of this thing? Put it this way, I'll give you at least that. Thankfully, this past year I was able to pretty much almost make as much as my day job from comedy.
Wow.
So I make $10 an hour at my day. No, I'm kidding, but no, I thank God, but but in the back of your mind, everyone's like yeshiva tuition.
Right.
So it's the Jewish thing is it ever enough? I don't know. So I don't know. Depends on the world. Yeah.
I hear that.
I think I have one more question. Okay. Can you tell us a joke?
My favorite thing is when I'll like talk to someone and then like for like 20 minutes and then like I won't say I'm a comedian, then they'll be like, "Oh, I do comedy." Like, "Oh, that's funny." Like, and then people are like, "Tell me a joke," and I was like, I don't think you understand what I've been doing for the past 20 minutes here, and I can really tell the person's like you've been laughing, but you don't realize, and then the date's usually over, but By the way, I performed at a singles event, and there was a girl once who was saying, she said, "I love John Mulaney and Nick Kroll, and I love the league." And I said, I don't care what it takes. You have to put that on your Shidduch resume because that'll
Absolutely.
get you. If you post that, every guy will be like, "Okay, I'll go out with
Yeah,
her."
I don't know who this is,
Because
but I'm ready to date her.
Yeah,
I
was
know.
gonna say, Menachem's interested.
I was like, this is the fact that, yeah, Shidduch resumes. That's a whole new can of worms.
Don't even start
We're-
with that.
the Goyish world is so superficial. Now, hand me your measurements. You can only give it to my mother, who can evaluate this like you're a beauty pageant.
Yeah.
Man,
Oh, wow. All right. Are we ready for the Mizrachvant?
Oh, I think we are.
Okay. So
So just cut this anyway. Menachem, I can hear you now. So
Yeah,
you
I
don't
could
need
hear you
to.
too.
okay, good.
Somehow,
This is like
the fact that we got to this point, like with all the issues that me and Joseph were having, is insane. But we'll take it.
yeah.
Yeah, Ellie, when you hang up, Shlomo's gonna make a Shechianu.
That's why I need to get to the Mizrachvant already because I don't know how much longer I could deal with the dropped audio.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're an excessive talker when you're like one of those people on a phone call and like you've been going for 5 minutes and they're like great, oh shoot, yeah, we lost you at Jewish comedian. Can you start again? Like, oh god, and it wouldn't be a Jewish thing without technical difficulties, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Mizrachvant that we're gonna do is the Mizrachvant of comedians. Just a totally random topic that we figured would be a good idea. So, Ellie, I'm sure you know how this works, and I'm sure you're also familiar with snake drafts. So, we're gonna start with you. I'm gonna go second. Who went last time?
Oh my, okay, there's no way I'm.
Am I
You
supposed
went
to pick
last
my
time.
favorite? Is that like how did
Yeah. Your favorite. So,
Yeah, let's just do
fantasy
that.
team?
Yeah.
okay, so Ellie, myself, Menachem, Joe, you're gonna go last.
I
Okay?
think it's Yosef and then me last.
Oh, you're going last.
Because
Okay,
the way it
fine.
works, it's Yosef, me, then you. Whatever. This isn't.
Okay.
It's not important.
Wait, Shlomo, are we really gonna rely on Menachem
Yeah,
for a
we're
snake
not
draft?
relying on
I
it for snake draft,
remember the
but-
way we do it. I just get lost. There's a difference.
Okay, so who's going last?
I'll go last.
Okay, so Ellie, start us off. We know you're going first. We'll bicker about the rest.
It's good that you did comedians because I wouldn't know my Catskills or Rishonim, so it's good that you guys. I'm going to go with Dave Chappelle because he if you watch Killing Him Softly, which is like his 2000 special,
Sure.
that really holds up. Like I was going to post his bit about driving with his white friend before he posted his 846 thing, and it's so funny and also really poignant and stuff like that. So Dave Chappelle is my number one pick.
Yeah, great choice.
Yeah, I think it's a great choice, and I'm probably going to go with, it's either 1A, 1B, depending on who you like better. I'm going with Bill Burr.
Yeah.
Bill Burr is my absolute favorite.
That was my number one.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm crossing a draft board off. I'm like, yeah,
Yep.
dude, and they're still available. Oh god.
Yeah, for me, at least for my money, Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle are the top two out there today. I don't know if there's an argument.
Bill Burr, his new thing, Paper Tiger, the most recent one that came out. It was also great because again, he talks about stuff without rough around the edges and is going to offend people, but he's whatever quote unquote left leaning, which most comedians are, but he's not super annoying about it.
Bill Burr, I'm pretty sure Bill Burr is more right leaning from what I've heard.
No, he's definitely left leaning.
I don't know, maybe
not. He's just an angry redheaded guy from Boston, so
exactly.
you assume
that could be.
He's
I think the only thing you had to say.
Yeah.
So the only thing you have to say about Bill Burr is that he counter heckled an entire audience into rooting for him after being held.
That Philly rant. Yeah, I mean, okay. So for much of our audience, you're probably not going to appreciate it because it's quite. There's a lot of profanity there.
But not work for this entire list.
Yeah,
I think we have enough people who listen that will get it. I think.
Yeah, I hope.
Right.
I hope
Good.
so. All right.
My niche audience, great.
I may be picking him too early, but he became big right when I was allowed to start listening to comedy, which is John Mulaney. He he you know how LeBron's answered the question of, what do you want to, what's your ultimate goal? Oh, I want to be a global icon, right? And the reason why was because the internet was becoming bigger, social media was becoming bigger. I feel like John Mulaney, and so LeBron kind of hit the spot on that. I feel like for me, John Mulaney he was right there when he first started, right when I started listening to comedy. So I have him
John
as my
Mulaney's
number
amazing.
one.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, no, John, yeah, he's great. Very good.
Okay, so I'm actually a little bit surprised that this guy lasted this far because he was going to be my number one choice overall.
I know who you're going with.
Yeah,
Obviously.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah,
I mean, he is the prototypical comedian, and for me, what makes him so great is that he's so clean. So the fact that you're able to, I guess, perform and say these things and still be clean without relying on anything else, I think is what makes him really the greatest. Like, there are other comedians that I've heard, which you will see in my second choice now, that are not as clean, and I still like them, but just it's a lot harder to be funny when you also have to be clean.
Right.
But,
It's true.
which
that's why I do what I do.
Right. Which brings me to my next choice in Louis C.K.
Yeah.
Asterisk. No, I'm kidding. There's an asterisk after each one. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's so many things he says that are just like what people, some feedback that I've been getting on our podcast, like, oh, you say the things that we're thinking. A lot of so this is probably yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that because that is a big indictment on my thinking. Okay, let's move on to the next one.
No,
So
Louis C.K. is just for a second. Also, I want to John Mulaney. By the way, just for that, I also could see him being like the next host of the Tonight Show when Jimmy Fallon is done laughing at nothing. But
yeah, that'll be a major
because he's a
improvement.
white guy with a full head of hair.
I mean that too. But like no, just like he's got the showmanship, the presence. You know what I mean? To like
Incredible. His
draw
delivery
you
is
in.
incredible.
For sure.
But Louis C.K., I saw Louis C.K. when I was going Sukkot, which was years ago. And Sukkot, I mean this past Sukkot,
Right.
I was in LaGuardia and I passed Louis C.K. and I almost asked him for a picture, but I already thought about the flack I would get on social media if I posted Louis C.K. But I was like, hey. He's like, hey. That was it.
Well, Ellie, in some audiences, the flack you would have gotten was, you took a picture of the guy without a yarmulke.
I was like, boy. I'm like, yeah, half the people on our list are gay.
All right, Joe.
So for my next one, I'm taking this for two reasons. One, to bother Shlomo because I know he has him on his list, but also, he's kind of the king of the weird thought process, which is Mitch Hedberg.
I was considering taking him instead of Louis C.K. I should have.
Honestly, I
say my thoughts are like
his comedy is too weird for me to really go on a rant about how good he is, but he's unbelievable.
I can't believe you took it. Okay, that was gonna be
I'm upset at myself now. Whatever.
That was a strategic pick.
Yeah. Okay, so my next one, I have a few ways to go here. I'm gonna go with someone again. Some people might be a little surprised. People in my personal life might be a little surprised that I listen to him, but I love him, and I think Ellie, you probably appreciate him also. The one and only Patrice O'Neil.
Wow, I
had him on my list.
don't have so much experience with his stuff. I mean, like I've heard it, but like also just because he became more of a thing when he died. But I could see him resonating with your personality, Shlomo.
Yeah,
I'll
tell you why.
I think he's the Tupac of comedy.
So, Joe, I mean, I'll tell you why. Bill Burr, who was my first pick and my favorite comedian, said that Patrice was his biggest mentor in comedy, and you could see the styles are very, very similar. So, And also his showmanship also is amazing. He used to just come and just work the crowd, and then basically come with his material on the spot. Like it is really amazing to watch. All right, Ellie, you got the next two.
Believe it or not, I'm going my ESPN cheat sheet from. Okay, so that's the thing. I also kind of feel like I want to bring attention to other comedians, but also like I don't know. I'll say that. Somebody I love, Gary Goldman. I don't know if he's a household name yet. He should be because he's really really funny. He also like has a lot of good jokes about being Jewish that are not in a cliche way. Gary Goldman, Gulman. He just came out with a new special called like The Great Depression. It's on Spotify, where I listen to this podcast. But he's great. His what?
I said organic plug. Thanks.
Organic plug. That's how I Spotify. People are like, wherever you listen to podcasts. I was like, do people listen to podcasts other than Spotify? I don't know. My other one, just because I really just recently just watched his newest thing and I just thought it was so funny, is Jim Jeffries.
Yes.
Very much NSFW because he says the C word a lot, but he's Australian, so it's like, bro, it's like, you know, he says it a lot, but he is very like from a storytelling standpoint, he is amazing at like, you know, just he'll go on a 15-minute story and he'll get people to, you know, go against whatever your opinion is. He'll go like he has a long bit about being anti-gun, but like even if you're NRA forever, you'll still probably laugh if you have a sense of humor. Jim Jeffries, definitely, but don't watch it with people, kids around.
Yeah, he's solid. He's solid. Okay, my next one, we mentioned him. I think we mentioned him before. I mean, I love this guy, Mark Normand. Also, not so much of a household name, but Mark Normand is probably my favorite newer comedian.
For my next pick, I'm gonna go with Robin Williams.
Really?
I remember watching something. I think it was with a scarf, where someone threw a scarf on stage and he did a 10-minute bit with the scarf.
Oh, it's
and I was absolutely blown away by that.
The Inside the Actor Studio thing, where he does like pretends to be like the old Jewish woman.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's wild. He's like if Carrot Top was actually funny.
Yeah, I didn't have him, but now that you're mentioning it, I've definitely seen a bunch of clips with him doing stand-up that I thought were really good.
He's hysterical.
His golf is great.
Yes.
And everyone shared his thing about Moshe in the desert and stuff like that.
Like all of these are like classic ones that you see, and they're all great.
But you could tell it was cut from WhatsApp because all the
I don't know if I saw. Yeah.
All right, Menachem,
okay.
You go.
Yeah. So my next one is gonna be Bill Cosby. Okay, I am just realizing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just realizing now, right as I said that, who my last two picks were, and I know it doesn't look great.
Menachem, think about how this is going to look on the Twitter poll.
Yeah, I'm realizing that it's not great, but
with his fourth pick, Menachem takes Bill Clinton.
Before he did what he did, he had some good stuff.
No, during he was doing it.
Okay, that is true. I didn't think of that.
No, unfortunately, there's a thing also of is the person a good comedian and a horrible person are two separate, things. And that's the tricky.
I think you could be both. I think you could be a great comedian and also a terrible person, which brings me into my next pick, which I think he's a little bit more obscure, might be becoming a little more famous now, but Anthony Jeselnik. Have you guys heard of him?
He's very well known.
Yeah, he's very well known.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know a few years ago when I heard of him, he wasn't, but I don't know. Now I think he's very well known. But
I mean,
I
right.
I mean, in people who are like, I guess, somewhat in the comedy world, he's definitely very well known. I'm talking to like the random person who's listening to this podcast might not know who he is, but he's unbelievable.
Your Passaic crowd may not know.
Yes, exactly.
Well,
So I'm actually going to go. My next one, I'm going to go with a person that the Passaic crowd would be familiar with, which is
I
Brian
knew
Regan.
that was coming.
Brian Regan, you know, Menachem was talking about how Jerry Seinfeld was clean, you know, whatever. Brian Regan is 100% clean, and he's an artist in the way that he does it. Meaning, he manages to be hysterical without anything.
So
Yeah, he's great.
You know?
that's actually true, and I'm going to segue. I'm going to call an audible, and actually my last pick. I was gonna pick Jim Gaffigan, but instead I'm going to pick Norm Macdonald. And Norm,
interesting.
Norm
You're never
Mac-
going to win the point of this one. But,
What did you say?
So you're never going to win the poll in this one. But
I know, but come on. I mean, Norm Macdonald. If you ever listen to his stand-up, forget about his hilarious weekend updates on SNL. But his stand-up is just always end to end, laugh out loud, funny. And fun fact, just Joe, just to buttress your pick, Norm Macdonald said his favorite comic is Brian Regan. Actually,
I've heard that from a few people. Pete Holmes said that on his podcast.
Yeah.
A few other people have all said that. They said, you know, that it's really impressive what he's able to do.
Yeah. So that's my last pick. Ellie, let's finish this off.
Sure. First of all, I have to say Anthony Jeselnik is probably not a bad person just because he tweets bad, like, you know, wrong jokes.
Oh yeah, I don't know if he's necessarily.
But like Bill Cosby, bad person.
Yes.
Did gross things. Anthony Jeselnik is probably fine, just like his character's persona.
Yes.
Sure. But I'm just saying, making that difference.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
See, the problem is that I love Jim Gaffigan's King Baby, but I don't know. Sorry, I'm gonna just, because no one's gonna agree with me because no one's ever heard of this person. That's always gonna be a big winner. But Maria Bamford is. I know I went with a woman. Is that allowed?
It's a Jewish podcast. We're gonna have to blur out the face.
We're gonna have to
By the way, the whole argument with people are just like, "Are women comedians funny?" And it's like, women comedians weren't allowed to be comedians till like 20 years ago, right? Like, so. It's, in terms of, but Maria Bamford is, if you listen to her bit called Joy Whack-A-Mole. Joy Whack-A-Mole. It's the last soundtrack, last track on one of her things. She's just so funny, so cerebral. She's like, she has bipolar disorder, but she talks about her mental illness and stuff like that, and it's really, really funny. And again, it's also like, a lot of, let's say, female comedians that I don't appreciate are just like, oh yeah, I'm a woman, and this is like be about like that, specifically like calling that out and making jokes that men can't make, but like she just makes jokes about herself, and like you don't have to be a man or a woman to relate to them. So Maria Bamford, no one.
So after Shlomo cuts this for our Passaic audience, do you want to pick something? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, they're like, wow, we were with you on the Chappelle.
We were with you on Bill Cosby, but this is too much.
Honestly,
wait. Oh, that's a great question, Shlomo. That has to be the next poll question. Who's going to get more hate, Menachem for his picks?
No, I'll tell you what the poll is. The poll is who's going to get more hate, Menachem for Bill Cosby or Menachem for Louis C.K.?
No, there's such a difference.
I mean, I don't think it's a question that Bill Cosby is a much worse human being than Louis C.K. Like, I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, no, on the molecular scale, it's.
I think it would be pertinent to limit everybody to 2 honorable mentions.
Yeah. Okay. So I think
that's
I think that's a good point. But by the way, just before we get to the honorable mentions, I think we've been very harsh on Passaic. What we really mean is Lakewood. Because I feel like there's a segment of Passaic that would actually appreciate this. I don't know if there's anyone in Lakewood that would. Okay, so honorable mentions.
Oh man, that's gonna alienate. Now the listenership dropped to 9. We're done.
No, I think we're just done to us 4. Okay, my honorable mentions. Jim Gaffigan and another one. that I don't know if would have been mentioned anyway, but I actually like Nate Bargatze a lot.
That was
Um,
great.
Never heard of him.
Clean. Also super clean.
Yeah,
Really?
I
yeah, he's
don't
very
know if that.
I'm gonna go. My honorable mentions are gonna be Stephen Wright.
Oh, good one.
Nice. The original Bitch Hedberg.
Yeah, I happen to be a very big fan of his, and Richard Pryor.
Good one also.
Nice.
Ellie, you have any?
I have another one nobody's heard of named Mike Kaplan, spelled
Yeah, of course.
M-Y-Q.
MIQ. Yeah, of course I know.
Yeah, of course. No, I guarantee you, all 8 other people don't know this. No, I'm kidding. No, he's really, really. Oh my gosh, he's so good. And I also like this. Oh, here's a great one. Kyle Kinane. Kyle Kinane. Kinane. Also not safe for work. But Mike Kaplan, MYQ is great.
Good.
Okay, so and I guess my honorable mentions are gonna be Chris Rock and Eddie Murphy. I'm a little surprised that Chris Rock wasn't mentioned at all until now.
Okay, we're in the.
You know what's hysterical?
I don't like.
So you know what's hysterical? I was about to say congratulations to all of us for not saying Kevin Hart, Chris Rock, Eddie Murphy.
No.
Okay, Kevin Hart is different than Chris Rock and Eddie Murphy.
Canceled for not having them.
No, I'll be honest. Like I used to really like Chris Rock. I don't know. I don't. He's basically just an activist now that's officially doing comedy. I don't know. I just his material rubs me the wrong way now.
Chris Rock's new is the tambourine thing, but I gotta say I wasn't. For some reason I just never really relate to it, and I'm too young for Eddie Murphy to, I know Eddie Murphy is Dr. Dolittle, but
Right.
I don't know him as a stand-up. And also, if you want to talk about cancel culture, Eddie Murphy's entire Raw and Delirious should be canceled.
Right.
If it,
I mean, I think you could say any comedy that was made before like the year 1990 would.
I was going to say before the year 2020.
Well, I was trying to be a little bit nice to some people. Yeah.
Right now, if we really want to be a part of, like, we could start from cancel culture. Everybody, all our 8 listeners, go through Ellie's old tweets and see what we can dig up and cancel him.
That
sounds like a great idea.
Guys, SNL just hired me and fired me within minutes. By the way, Ray Romano's newest special was pretty good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna throw out random people that don't need, like Ray Romano. He needs the work. No.
Okay. So, Ellie, thank you very much for coming on. This has been a lot of fun.
Sure.
Where can people check you out besides for Zoom?
For Zoom, my website is elicomedy.com, ELI comedy, because Lebowicz is way too hard to spell. I'm on Twitter and Facebook at Eli Lebowicz, ELILEBOWICZ. Like I said, that's why my website's elicomedy.com. And I got some videos up online and on Facebook, and can reach out to me. And I'm on Twitter trying out jokes that my wife doesn't like. So, yeah.
All right. That's great. Well, Ellie, thank you very, very much again. On behalf of our 8 to 10 listeners. No, I'm kidding. What'd you say?
Now it's 6.
No, come back. Mom, come back. All right, Ellie, thank you very much.
Sure.
Really appreciate it.
No problem.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.